Good morning, Dan and Amy. So, Julian Assange, the ghoulish head of WikiLeaks, said more emails from the DNC hack will be forthcoming.
Wait, aren't you glad that he hacked the DNC?
Well, he didn't necessarily hack. He received the proceeds of the hack. And there's mounting evidence, according to one report in The Hill, that the Russians are the responsible party. There's evidence that the hacker used Russian language anonymity software, a language that he has claimed he could not read or even recognize. The news comes amid mounting reports linking Guccifer 2.0's hack of the DNC emails to Russian intelligence. Everything I know about cybersecurity, I learned from season 1 of Mr. Robot. So I don't think that's going to be enough.
No, I don't think so.
And that's why we've got...
I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, well,
You're
trying,
really trying
to learn.
Yeah.
But that's why we've got Fred Cate from the Indiana University School of Law.
Is that where the Indianans live?
Yeah, as you would say. Other people use the term Hoosiers, but Indianans is apparently acceptable to you. Fred Cate joins us now. Fred, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So give us your sense, because this hack is so politicized now because, of course, it's the Democrat National Committee that was hacked and the contents of the emails, and there's competing political interests. But in terms of the cybersecurity piece of this and how you trace back to the responsible party, what is your assessment based on what we know at this point?
Yeah, I think the evidence is pretty clear, and it continues to mount that these certainly are Russian hackers. That doesn't tell us whether they're related to Putin, that they work for the government, they work for themselves. But, the Russians are very sophisticated in cyber attacks. They've successfully attacked most U.S. government agencies, including the White House and the State Department last year. And, they leave trails behind. You look at the type of attack, you look at the software, the language it was used in, you look at the coding. All of this right now seems to be pointing to two separate Russian attacks on the DNC website.
Now, ABC News was saying that Putin himself, because he's a former KGB agent, that he was responsible for the hacking. Is there any possibility of that?
Well, frankly, I don't know how we would ever know that unless Putin just comes forward and admits it. I think what's more likely, at least what we've seen in the past with the Russian hacks, is that you have, we sometimes refer to them as the Russian business mafia. You've got Russian organized crime, and then you've got, frankly, these very smart young hackers. And they all kind of work in a kind of a loose confederation. The hackers break in trying to find something that will either earn them money or earn them credit with somebody higher up the food chain. Whether they were thinking Putin, I have no idea.
So Guccifer 2.0 is the handle, right? Guccifer is the Romanian hacker who's in custody. And Guccifer 2.0, do we know anything about them in the world of hacking in terms of, is there really a relationship, or are they just using that handle as part of their cover, or do we even know?
We really just, we don't know. I mean, as you know, lots of speculation out there. But, and this is one of the real challenges of cyberspace, is attribution. Who is responsible for the attack is one of the hardest things. We're really good at detecting attacks. We're not so good at preventing them. And we're really terrible at figuring out who actually launched them.
And what about with respect to Hillary's private server? There's some speculation, this was part of actually that debate. Were you hacked? You don't know if you were hacked. You can't say that you were. You can't say that you weren't. Is there any way that hackers get into her private server and that's how somehow connected to this hack?
I suspect that the answer to that is yes, there is a way they could get in, and no, it's not necessarily connected to this attack. I mean, we know what the director of the FBI said after the FBI's lengthy inquiry into the whole server situation, which was that they found no evidence of an attack, but that such an attack was possible. And given the fact that, then Secretary Clinton traveled the globe with her BlackBerry, which connected to her server, and therefore it was located in countries that could make an attack, that might have an interest in an attack, and the physical location of the device in the country might make it possible for them to access it. So I think it would be a likely thing that it may have been attacked.
Well, do you ever see a time when emails and servers won't be hacked, or is this just our new reality? You should always watch what you email.
I don't see that time, and not any time in the foreseeable future. And I hate to say that, but And it's not just emails and websites. It's also, all of those critical systems that we use to, control banking, control nuclear power plants, control airplanes. They're all digital now. I mean, the driverless car is all digital. And unfortunately, as we've gone for convenience by linking these all to the internet, we've also gone for a great deal of insecurity.
And the other issue, too, is the theft of intellectual property.
Yeah, and this is, in fact, what's motivated a great amount of the state-supported attacks, particularly from China, but also from these Russian groups, is, looking to see what's out there. What's out there is usually not embarrassing information. It's very hard to monetize that, but it's secrets, it's intellectual property, it's business plans, it's competitive information, even diplomatic information about, U.S. negotiations that can be used to the advantage of these foreign countries.
What about the kind of the terrorist threat as it pertains to cybersecurity? I mean, I mentioned Mr. Robot, this kind of popular show now, and I don't want, but I guess it's a fair question. The idea of life imitating art and the idea that you could have a terrorist attack that would shut down financial institutions like you saw in Mr. Robot, is that just kind of Hollywood sensationalism, or is some threat like that real?
Oh, the threat is very real. Right now, terrorists still seem, for whatever reason, and I mean, there's a lot of debate about this, to be more fascinated by physical attacks, whether it's a building or a plane or a market full of people, and less interested in what you might think of as more subtle, but particularly more damaging attacks, like going after a banking system. But the vulnerability is there, and certainly most of the attack devices, most of the software that's used for these attacks, you can buy them on the internet. So you don't have to be a skilled attacker. You just have to go online, pay some money, and you buy a skilled attack. So there's no reason a terrorist group couldn't do that.
All right. He is Fred Cate, professor at Indiana University Law School, the director of the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research at Indiana University, or IU, as we call it in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Fred Cate, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. Good luck.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This